Hello everyone, Adam here to talk to you about a very important topic, peer revision. I should tell you that this is like the 29th time that I've tried recording this, and for whatever reason, this presentation is the one that gives me the most difficulty. I have no idea why. But anyway, let's move on through it. What does this quote mean to you? Me neither. All right, so here's what's going to happen. On Thursday, and I can say that now because we only meet on Thursdays. On Thursday, you're going to go through a peer review process. It's the primary way that we have you apply concepts while in class. And so basically what it is giving objective feedback. And what we mean by that is just seeing someone else's text from your own perspective, telling them how you see it in a kind and honest way. This particular presentation, which is very short, is meant to just help give you both a process and the skills that you need to carry out that process when peer reviewing other people's papers and having yours reviewed, because it's a two-way street. So who is the best person to review your writing? Especially when they say the who of peer review. I feel like most of you, if this were a multiple choice question on a test, everybody would put A because they're like peers, it's right there in the title. And I, wouldn't argue with you. But it could really be any of these people. So it could be instructors. Antonio and I are always glad to look at your papers. Although I will tell you that we really like to look at only specific questions that you have because it's really unfair for us who are grading your paper to, look through everybody's like complete paper or some people's complete paper, but not others because there's no way that we can make it to all of you. But that's why we take specific questions. You can also have your friends peer review. Sometimes that's really helpful. Sometimes it's very helpful to have somebody who doesn't know anything about your topic read it to see if it makes sense to them. And these could be friends that like you or friends that don't like you. Sometimes those people give really good feedback too. And it could also be the Writing Center at VT. Although I will warn you that sometimes they don't know what we're shooting for in our assignments because they have a different understanding of it and they'll tell you conflicting things. That's life, children. All right, so why peer review? Why is it a good thing? There's a couple reasons. There's actually quite a few reasons. Peer review is actually a really good thing. But it's able to see our writing through another person, and so if you think that you're getting your message across loud and clear, they read it and come back and give you the wrong message or say that they didn't get the message at all. That helps you. You're like, oh man, I thought that I was doing a good job, but in fact, I need to go back and try harder. It also helps us see how other people think and write. We get to see their writing process and their style and then what they chose to talk about. And sometimes that's illuminating. We learn new things and new ways to do stuff. And so that's why whenever we have you peer review, we usually have you peer review with a different person each time so that you get to, learn. Learn by doing. All right. We also get to see new ways of explaining ideas. And then lastly, and perhaps most importantly, we get to look at our own writing differently. Because, and here's what I mean by that. Ordinarily, we don't look at our own writing very objectively. Like, all of the things that you need to do because you learn them in class and in the lessons. We know all the principles we're supposed to apply. Sometimes we struggle to apply them to ourselves because we're really attached to the stuff that we wrote. Like, we really love it. It's great. It's perfect. It's like it's your kid, and you overlook its flaws. But when you look at other people's kids, you're like, God, that kid's obnoxious. I would never let my kid talk to me that way. And then, you go back and you look at your own kid objectively as a result, and you're like, oh, my kid is talking to me that way. That's a really terrible metaphor, but it's the same thing that we're getting at with your writing. Like, you're going to look at other people's writing and think, man, this is really good. Or, man, I just didn't get what they were saying. And then you're going to take that back to your own writing and as a result of that, look at it more objectively. Let's move on. So there are 4 steps in the process of peer reviewing. Here they are. Step 1, boom. Prep the other, writers, this is you. Prep your peer reviewers. It sounds like drivers, start your engines. Writers, prep your peer reviewers. I don't know. And so here's what I mean by that. If you have specific concerns about the document, go ahead and share those with the people before they read it. If you're like, man, I just didn't know what I was doing with the close, I wasn't sure how to end it, it sort of primes them for thinking about that whenever they go into it. If it's a work in progress, let them know. Let them know at what level you are with it and its doneness. Did you start on it last night and work on it for like 12 minutes, and so that you'd have something to bring to class, which by the way is bad, and I know that. I know it when you do these things. Or have you been working on it for a week and you think it's in its final stages? So those things are important for the reviewer to know. Here's another tip. Number the paragraphs on each page. That way it's not confusing when you talk about it. You'd be like, oh, the middle paragraph. And you're like, do you mean the middle number-wise or like the middle in terms of, spatial recognition on the page? No, just write numbers next to them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's how numbers work. And so, an example would just be, for example, the strengths and weaknesses of paragraph 1 are blah, blah, blah. So I can't remember if I told you this or not, but whenever we say we're going to exchange papers, bring actual paper to class. Print your documents out. That way people can write notes on it, mark it up, all that good stuff. All right. So step 2 is the reviewers read. You get your paper from your buddy, and then you read it silently. Please don't read out loud. And then here are some things to keep in mind while you read. Is anything confusing? Why is it confusing? Are ideas that are not fully developed, like do they jump out at you? What are the strengths and weaknesses? Was the paper interesting? Is the document clear and concise? Or do I have any questions at the end of it? I'm also going to, just full disclosure, I'm going to be giving you a peer review sheet whenever you come in with some prompts on it that will also, sort of take the place of these questions as well for specific documents. So for example, when we do white papers, one of my questions will be, is the argument logical and linear? And that only applies to white papers, but that's an important thing. So you'll get prompts to think about when you're reading. And then after reading, the reviewer then shares his or her comments with the person who wrote it. Here's some tips. Don't share vague comments because they're not helpful. This is good, this is bad. What does that even mean? So give yourself, or give your person that you reviewed, give them full explanations and details about things that you like, dislike, understood, or didn't understand. And cite specific paragraphs in that process. Like you can write on the page, like if you want to. And always make it positive and constructive because again, we're all learning. This shouldn't be old hat for anybody, and we all can get better. So let's just take it from a point of wanting to improve. Again, no, this is good, this is bad, because it sounds like you're kicking field goals. It's good, it's bad, no. All right. Step number 4, this is when you receive the feedback as the original writer. I just need for you to know that you don't have to make all the changes that any one reviewer accepts or writes down. And so typically you're going to have 2 to 3 different people review one of your documents. And so what I would challenge you to do is just take a look at it and see if there are commonalities, or if there are any outliers, and then take what you think works best. You don't have to make every change. But take all the comments in the spirit of improvement and make a plan for improving your paper. Also, resist the urge to argue because who are you trying to argue with? No, don't argue. Because here's why. If you're trying to get a message across and the person that you're sending the message to reads it and doesn't get it, you can't say you're wrong because they either get it or they didn't get it. And that's your problem as a writer. So there's no chance that you can argue with them. So, all right. So here's some general tips for peer review. And I actually do all of these things, so they're pretty helpful. Before you make the first comment, read the whole document the whole way through. None of the documents that you write in this class are particularly long, so read it all the way through. It sort of gives you like a broad overview of what the writer is trying to accomplish. And then go back and work for like nitpicky things like grammar, the structure of it and whatnot, because it gives you, you have more context. Point out the strengths as well as the weaknesses. Nobody likes to get back a paper if you did all these things wrong. So do, write about the things that went really well for them as well, because that is also like equally worthwhile to know. Offer suggestions, not commands. I feel like this could be a life lesson. Nobody likes to be told what to do. So it's better to write, you could consider, changing this word in paragraph 1 as opposed to, change this word to this word, because nobody wants to do that then. And then as the reader, raise questions that cross your mind, points that haven't occurred to your peer author. That's part of the benefit. Feel free to dig deep. And then reread your comments before passing them back because they may not make sense once you go back and read them a second time. All right, that is it, in fact, for peer revision. That's pretty quick overview. And we look forward to having you all in class. We've done peer review now for the past, I think 4 semesters, and people tend to really like it. They get a lot of good feedback all at once. And we found that the assignments that have turned into us have been better for having had other people's eyes on it. So, good thing. All right, we'll see you on Thursday.